In order to become more present, we need to become more aligned with what is. And the way to do that is through using the technique of softening. Any resistance we have to anything we're experiencing causes us to mentally tighten. The tighter we become mentally, the more mentally agitated we become. And the less able we are to be able to be with what is happening right now. The technique of softening into counters that. By softening into, we're not softening into a thing. We're not softening into the unpleasant feeling, as it were. We're not softening into the sound. We're not softening into the pain. What we're doing is we're softening into our relationship to it. So by softening, you start to change that relationship. You can't force yourself to be present. You can't force yourself to experience right now. And the question we have to ask is, why do we find it so difficult just to be? Why do we find it so difficult just to experience things without feeling the need to judge them or change them? And we can see this in everyday life with how busy we like our lives to become. If there's one little gap in our life, we'll find some way to fill it. You just got to fill every gap. And then you'll talk to people, oh, how you been? Oh, I've been really busy. Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's good. Fantastic. Makes me so happy that you've been so busy. But what we don't realise is busyness is a symptom of an illness, of a sickness. And this sickness is being so busy because the last thing we want to do is just be with ourselves. The last thing we want to do is feel what's actually happening inside our heart. When we're really, really present, we see clearly what's really going on within there. And that's when we feel the pain. But the way through isn't to run away. The way through is to become more present and soften into that. Soften into the pain. Accept it. It's not separate from you. It's part of you. It's only when you make peace with it that it will actually heal. So you can see in that meditation practice just then, we're using the technique of softening, weren't we? You just keep softening in, starting with the body, and then mentally softening, relax, relax, relax. Did anyone find that as they started to soften, and then particularly mentally relax, that they started to become very present? You did? Yeah? You did as well? Yeah? Anyone else? You did? Anybody find it very difficult? It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. And why do you think it was so difficult to just relax into what was happening now? The thinking, but you can soften into thinking too.
I guess I'm not relaxed thinking, if that's any better.
Yeah, but you just soften into that as well. What you'll learn by doing the practice, you'll start to Notice that the thinking is just churning up by itself and that it's not really that important. It's because we think it's important that it actually draws all our attention. When you start to realise that there's much more important things in life than thinking, then the thinking settles down and you experience that peace. But we get lost within it. Yeah. So the trick is, whatever you're experiencing, and it doesn't matter what you're experiencing, relax into it. Relax into it, and the pain will lessen. It's acceptance, it's through the path of acceptance that things start to change. So this is why we've been building up or learning how to build up concentration and apply it in the practice. Because with concentration, what we're doing is we're bringing our attention to one point and we're holding it and aligning it with whatever we're experiencing right now. We're aligning it with that. As we do that, the thinking will start to settle down. If your concentration grows quite strong, the thinking stops altogether. And then you experience very, very deep stillness and peace. And from that place you can be with anything without being disturbed. So that's what we're doing. But that's the path. You don't develop this path of concentration through effort. You develop it through relaxing into. Yeah. Softening into.
Do you think it could be acceptance as well? Accepting that whatever's...
Yeah.
Like an acceptance?
It is an acceptance, but the thing about acceptance is a result. It's not something that we do. We don't actually accept anything. Acceptance is something that comes through understanding. When we really understand deeply in our heart what's really happening, then acceptance starts to come. If we don't understand, then it's very hard to accept something that we think is wrong, something that shouldn't be there, something that should just go away. We'll struggle against it. And that's why mindfulness is a wisdom practice. Through silent watching, you start to understand what's going on. And as that knowledge builds, which is called insight into reality, as that builds, the acceptance happens and then the mind lets go. And the letting go that happens as a result of that knowledge is the acceptance. And then it makes it easier to soften into it. But the first step is to know that whatever you're experiencing in your life is exactly how it is supposed to be. It cannot be any other way. That's the first step. And that's the one we struggle with.
Do you think it's because we all want to fix it? Like you want to fix it? Like it's sort of like...
We want to... I think it's more we want to run away from it.
Okay.
We don't want it to be there. I want this experience. I watch the people on the block and they got all this money and I don't have it. We want to be somewhere else other than where we are. But in reality, you are wherever you are. That is your starting point. You can't negotiate with reality. Whatever is here right now is exactly what's here right now, and it can't be any other way. It's been driven and conditioned by the past. This is it. As long as we're denying what we're experiencing right now, it will continue. We'll continue on the same cycle. It's only through understanding deeply in your heart whatever is here is exactly what's supposed to be here. Trust in that. Then work on your relationship to it. Don't try to get rid of it. Don't try to change it. Soften into your relationship to it. Study it. Watch it. Understand it. Then the mind will start to let go of it, and guess what? When it lets go, the whole thing changes. It just shifts. But we need that concentration, that initial concentration to do it. So, whenever anything comes up in your meditation practice or everyday life, first thing I want you to do is place your awareness in your body. That means feel whatever is going on, and it doesn't matter what it is. Next one is to know what it is that you are doing. I am sitting meditating. Remember that. Don't forget it. I am walking. I am arguing. I am shopping. Yeah? I am standing. Hold that. That will align you more with the present. You can only understand that if you're very present. The next thing is just gently using your breathing like we did before. Relax into your body. Relax into the unpleasant sensations. Relax into the pleasant sensations. It doesn't matter what it is. Relax into it by holding that knowing. When you do that, you align fully with the present. You'll become very, very present. The thinking will start to settle down. The story will start to settle down. Just be with that and relax into it. If you're doing the meditation practice, the next stage is then be aware of the breathing. The breathing will present itself to you, because remember, the formal practice, we're training the mind, so we go to a deeper level. The breathing will appear to you. Be aware of the breath, but at a distance, not trying to look at it. Just know it's there. To build concentration, just be aware of the middle of each breath. And we can use a counting technique during formal meditation to build up that initial concentration. So as you breathe in, you count 1. Breathe out, count 2. Next breath in, 3. Next breath out, 4. Keep doing this until you reach 10. When you've counted 10 breaths, go back to 1. If you get distracted, you forget what you're doing, you start getting caught up in a conversation in your head, as soon as you realise it, just go back to 1 again. It's not a competition to get to 10. The numbers are there to allow you to know when your attention has wandered off. That's all they're for. If you do this continuously, you'll find you'll start to become concentrated. Yeah? I've had people with very, very busy minds, and this works really well for them. How you'll know is you'll find your attention will tend to stay with the breathing. It won't wander off so much. Or even if a thought comes up, you'll feel it kind of pull away, but you're not really interested. Your attention will start to stick. When your attention sustains with the breathing, that means it's staying there without wandering off. What you do is you drop the counting. The counting is scaffolding to build up concentration. Then just be aware of each breath coming in and out. Now, to gain understanding, we then need to switch to mindfulness practice. So we have to change the way we're using our attention. So to build up the concentration, what we do is we hold our attention in one place and we ignore all distractions. So when your attention wanders off, you ignore it. Come back to the breath. And that's why the counting method's there, yeah? Hear a sound, ignore it. Thought comes up, ignore it. Sensation in the knee, ignore it. Back to the breath. Notice when it wanders and keep bringing it back. That's how you build concentration. But to start mindfulness practice kicking in, now we've got that basis of concentration. What we do is when you're watching the breathing, start watching the very beginning of each breath and the very end of each breath. So turn your attention from the middle. Start trying to see the whole of the breath, beginning, middle, end. If you're really attentive, you might even see a gap between the breath. in the breathing. Start looking at more detail. You can even look at things like the length of the breath. Is this breath long? Is it short? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it rough or smooth? Know these things. That's similar to knowing, oh, I'm sitting here, I'm standing here, I'm walking. This is knowing the breath is long, the breath is short, the breath is rugged, the breath is smooth. Then you can start to look at details. Oh, coolness. I experience the breath on the in-breath as cool, but on the out-breath as warm. I feel coolness and then an expanding feeling and then a contracting feeling and then warmth. And the breathing will break up like this. Yeah? That's how you start the mindfulness practice. Notice you're starting to look at detail here. Now, when your attention wanders off, what do you do? What do you do if your attention wanders off if you're doing mindfulness practice now? Not concentrating. What do we do?
Follow it.
Follow it. Yeah, we follow it. And then what do we do when it goes, your attention goes to something, say a thought? What do we do?
Experience it.
Experience it. Yeah. Start having a questioning mind. Oh, there's a thought. Okay. What does this thought feel like? Remember, if you're thinking a thought, there's an emotional charge behind it. There's got to be some sort of payoff. If your mind's going towards something, it's getting some sort of payoff. It's getting something out of it. Notice in life you don't give any attention to anything that you don't get anything out of, do you? That's a neutral person. Don't even look at them. But if they're good looking, whoa. I can get something out of that by looking at them, can't I? Isn't this what we do?
Yes.
It is, isn't it? So there's always a payoff. If we're not going to get that pleasant or unpleasant feeling out of them, then we won't even bother. And everything in life is like this. Everything we're interested in or repulsed by is what we think about. So everything we're getting some sort of payoff. Either something to complain about or something to desire. This is what we do. So when your mind wanders off to a thought, what's the payoff? What are you getting off on? What are you enjoying? And we enjoy our pain as much as we enjoy our pleasure. Well, the reality is our mind isn't thinking, it's not thinking in terms of good and bad. It just wants something to chew over.
I had a dream, and in my dream I was closer to my enemies than my friends.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because you have a stronger relationship with them. Yeah. And this is true, isn't it? That's a really good dream. And this is true. We have a stronger relationship with our enemies and friends. We probably spend more time thinking about them. More time chugging it over in our head. Our painful stuff. Than our stuff that makes us happy. And this is what you do. So look at the payoff. What does it feel like? What's the emotional charge behind it? Don't pay too much of it to the story, but notice if the story is obsessive, like planning, continuously planning. What does it feel like a mind that wants to plan all the time? Or worrying. What does the worrying feel like? Doesn't matter what you're worrying about. What does the worrying feel like? What does the angry thought feel like? What does a loving thought feel like? A generous thought. Notice when a generous thought comes up, and then suddenly you decide, no, not going to do that. And then the miserly thought comes up and stamps it out and replaces it with one, no, actually they don't really deserve it, I need that money more. This is what happens. This is the landscape of the mind. It's doing this stuff all the time. When you're being mindful, you allow the attention to wander wherever it wants to wander, and you look at that relationship, the payoff, what's going on. Get to understand your patterns, yeah? And then come back to the breath when nothing's drawing your attention, following the breath, going into more and more detail, breaking it up, breaking it up, breaking it up. Look at your relationship, and then suddenly the mind will go, off to something else. Do the same thing. This is the trick. This is what we're doing. So concentration first, yeah? Concentration first, then mindfulness second. And with the basic concentration, we can be with these things, and we can have our attention will be accurate enough that we can actually learn from it. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the practice associated with this. We're going to build up concentration through the counting, then we're going to drop the counting, and you can drop it before I ask you to, though I'll suggest a spot for other people who are not sure. And then just following the breath, looking at it in more detail, beginning, middle, end, and notice where it wanders and your relationship to it. Okay. So you just want to start off by closing your eyes over lightly. Just bring your awareness to your body, being aware of the feeling of your body, sitting on the chair or on the floor. Notice as soon as you anchor your attention in your body, your concentration starts to grow. Now see if you can hold the knowing, I'm sitting here meditating. Now start to relax into that feeling of your body. Just gently using your breathing. Every time you breathe out, allow yourself to relax into it. Now as you relax into your body, you'll start to notice your breathing as it comes in and as it goes out. Just start being aware of the middle of each breath and ignore all distractions. Now you can use counting to focus your attention on the breathing. Counting 1 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, 3 on the next in, and so on until you get up to 10. When you reach 10, just start again at 1. Now drop the counting and just be aware of each breath. See if you can be aware of the very moment the breath begins and the very moment it ends. And turn your mindfulness on any distraction and investigate it when it comes. When nothing draws your attention, just go back to the breathing. Keep softening into what you are experiencing. Start to be aware of the feeling of your body sitting on the chair or on the floor. Hold your attention within your body for now. Don't allow it to come out. Start to be aware of any sounds around you. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Be aware of seeing. Be aware of being in the room. So there's a skill in learning to build that concentration first, of being able to develop the depth of that concentration. Now, of course, if you've got more time to practice than what we had just then, you can spend more time developing the concentration to a deeper level. How can you tell when it's deep enough? Anybody? When can you tell when your concentration is ready for you to start doing mindfulness practice?
You can see all of the breath.
You can see all of the breath, but what is the state of mind at that time?
Peaceful.
It becomes peaceful. Yeah. So this is doing mindfulness practice with concentration first. We develop the concentration till the mind settles down. Concentration will settle down that mental restlessness. Relaxing into turning your attention away from outside, you actually become more and more peaceful. And you can do it by counting the breath, or you can do it by that letting go practice that we're doing in the beginning. It's leading you to the same point, isn't it? Yeah, they're just two different techniques. Yeah? Once your mind is still, sustaining with the breath, then you use the power of that concentration and that stillness to start investigating. And that's why you turn your attention to the beginning of the breath, the middle of the breath, end of the breath. Try to watch the moment it disappears, the moment the next one arises. Because what you're starting to do now is you're starting to observe change. Because a big part of this practice is becoming comfortable with change. You notice that any time you suffer in your life is when you resist change. Yeah, it's spot on. That's exactly when we suffer. Every time we go, no, we say, no, this can't be. It's always with change. We don't like change. So the practice of watching change makes you very intimate with it. And what you're doing is, through this concentrated, very mindful state, you're very open to it. And you become so familiar with it that you expect change in life. You expect it. So when it comes, it's not a shock. You understand that things change. Everything changes. Nothing stays still. Not for a moment. Yeah. So you're training yourself to observe change. Then when your attention wanders, seeing change again, you start to look at your relationship to things and get to know yourself really, really well. You accept and soften into that relationship, and through this softening and acceptance and the changing of a relationship, then your experience changes of the world.